Okay, so it is go time for baby to come. I went to my 39-week appointment today at the hospital. My blood pressure was a little high and my feet were kind of swollen. So she sent me to the hospital to get monitored. I was just there for a couple of hours, and the risk of preeclampsia is no longer something that they're looking at because my blood pressure was fine. And my urine came back fine, and baby, we did a non-stress test and baby was fine. But I do have low amniotic fluid, and they gave me the levels and it's extremely low. So they wanted to induce, which is something that I really am not happy about. I already cried at the hospital with my husband, but you know, we want to keep baby safe. So we got the okay to come back to the house so we can get our hospital bag, get everything ready, and just have our last meal and then go back to the hospital in a couple of hours. So that's kind of like what we're doing right now. And yeah, and then we are going to the hospital to get induced and meet our baby boy. So we decided, since we have a couple of hours, we're gonna go for a walk, do some curb walking, we're gonna have some food, and shower, try to relax before we head back to the hospital and get the process started. How are you feeling?
Good. Staying strong, a little nervous, but staying strong. No way.
Yeah, I'm a little nervous too. Okay, so we made it back to the hospital. I am in my labor and delivery room. This is where baby will be born. I have my husband right here in front of me. And I'm in my labor and delivery gown. This is my own gown. It's from Freedom Mom. It's so weird, they make you literally undress everything. So no bra, no underwear, no nothing, just the gown. And it just feels weird, but it is what it is. We're here and we're just waiting for a nurse to come to start the process. Yeah, you know, I talked to my doula, and you know, she told us to do some natural labor inducing methods at home before coming back to hospital to see if it works, and we did that. So when the nurse gets here, I want to get another cervical check and see if I'm dilated at least 1 centimeter, so we can go with a Foley catheter for dilation instead of Cytotec medication. And yeah, I have my ball. I brought a pillow and a blanket and just what I need. Okay, so I'm editing this video and there's a lot of information missing, so I'm gonna fill it in so it makes sense. When I went to my doctor's appointment that morning, I was serodilated. So if you don't know, your body needs to be 10 centimeters dilated in order to push a baby out. So my body was not dilated, but my blood pressure was high. I had low amniotic fluid, so she sent me to the hospital. I was not worried when she sent me to the hospital because my blood pressure always goes high when I go into the doctor's office. So when I go to the hospital, I'm gonna be fine. I'm not gonna get induced. I was like literally not worried. So when I go to the hospital to get extra monitoring and they're like, yes, we do recommend that you get induced, I was distraught. Like, I cried with my husband. I was like, okay, this is not what I wanted. And I fought to go home because they didn't want me to go home. So I had a sign that I was leaving against medical advice, which was fine. I was like, I wanna go home. I wanna get my hospital bag. I wanna wrap my head around this idea of getting induced. And I wanna go into it with a positive mindset and not be so stressed out about it. So glad that I was able to come back home to do that. And speaking to my doula and her telling me, go for the curb walking, have sex, do nipple stimulation, do all these things in order to potentially induce labor naturally or get your cervix dilated to at least 1 centimeter so that you can start the induction process with a cook balloon. So a cook balloon is a mechanical process versus medication, because I wanted to avoid much medication as possible. So with the cook balloon, it's literally like a little balloon. Once they insert it into your cervix, it inflates and it dilates your cervix. So when we went home, we did all the things. We go back to the hospital and the nurse checks me and I am 1 centimeter dilated, 40% effaced. And so I was happy. I was like, okay, coming home and doing all the things the doula suggested worked for us. I'm 1 centimeter dilated. I'm going to be able to start this induction process in a way that I want and to kind of avoid the medication. So I was in a positive mindset. I was like, okay, this is not what I want, but it's a little win and we're gonna meet our baby soon and everything's gonna be fine. So around 6:30 p.m. that day, my doctor returned so she could insert the cook balloon, and that pain was something I was not ready for. It was very painful. painful and very traumatic, and I'll tell you why. The doctor goes in to insert the cook balloon and she is struggling to put it in and it's painful. She proceeds to say that she doesn't think I'm 1 full centimeter dilated. She thinks I'm only half a centimeter dilated, and that's why she's struggling to put it in. And I don't know why she's struggling, because I literally feel her entire hand going up there, and that's why it was painful. And she's like, I'm so sorry. I really don't think you're 1 centimeter fully dilated. I'm holding on to my husband's hand the entire time. I'm breathing through this process and I'm literally on the verge of tears. I start crying after she's done, but she gets a speculum and she's like, let's try this again. I don't know, the whole process felt like it took 30 minutes to an hour. Honestly, it was a long process and very, 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 very painful for her to put it inside. After she left, the nurse was so confused. She's like, my whole finger fit in there. I'm positive that you're 1 centimeter dilated. So anyway, after that's done, the doctor says it's going to be in for 12 hours, so she'll come back in the morning to check on me. So a few hours after, I started feeling contractions. They were painful but manageable. They lasted throughout the night, and by morning I was feeling better as far as contractions were concerned. Okay, quick update. It is the next day. Last night we got a catheter, like a Foley balloon, to start the induction process. I took it out this morning. I'm 2 centimeters dilated. I was hoping to be 4. And now they started me on Pitocin. Really didn't want to be on Pitocin, but it is what it is. We're here. I'm riding the wave. What has happened in the past has happened, and I'm just trying to focus on the here and now and the future and holding my baby in my arms. I cried already like twice, but I feel better now in a way, trying to keep a positive mindset. And yeah, so once you're on Pitocin, you can't eat any solid. So I'm on a liquid diet as of right now, which is kind of sad for me. I'm hooked up to this machine right here. It has Pitocin and IV liquids going, which I was trying not to get IV liquids either, but it just has me thinking of the cascade of interventions. Once you do one thing, it's like the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. But we'll see how it goes. We'll see if baby comes by the end of today or early tomorrow morning. I'm not happy. It's what it boils down to, but I'm trying to stay positive. That's the update. So we sort of stopped vlogging after this because things kind of moved quickly and got intense. Once I got on Pitocin, that conversation with my doctor was also very stressful because she's just freaking rude. Like, when your doctor talks to you and doesn't mind your feelings, it makes you feel bad for asking questions. Like, that was my doctor, and I think that added to my overall experience being a bad one. When the nurses apologize for your doctor, like every time the doctor would leave and it was a new nurse, they would be like, I'm so sorry for that, what just happened. I'm so sorry she's so spicy. I'm so sorry she is headstrong. You know, like when the nurses are apologizing for your doctor, you know that like you don't treat your patients like crap. Basically, that's how she made me feel anyway. Trust me, I tried to switch doctors before giving birth and unfortunately was not lucky enough to do so. So anyway, so they started me on Pitocin around 6:30 in the morning after they took out the cook balloon, right? And the thing with Pitocin is that it's an artificial hormone that's making your body contract. They are more painful and not a lot of time for you to rest in between contractions. So by 2 p.m. that day, I was level 10 for Pitocin. By 2:30, I was feeling very crampy. I was losing like bloody discharge, which my doula said that's like the bloody show. So it just shows that my body is opening. So that was a good good thing. I was feeling crampy, but for the most part good. At 3 p.m. I had another cervical check that also hurt like hell. So from 6:30 in the morning, when they took out the cook balloon, I was 2 centimeters dilated. Now it's 3 p.m. in the afternoon and I am 4 centimeters dilated. Maybe 4.5 is what they said when they checked me. By 8:30 p.m. I refused the cervical check because the contractions were just so painful. I was like, I can't have someone checking me while I'm dealing with these contractions and they're so painful. And I had no pain medication at that point. But soon after, the contractions got even more intense. So by 10 p.m. I was like, yes, tell the nurse to come in, do a cervical check, because I was so tired. I was in so much pain. And that's when I started saying, I can't do this anymore. My husband and my doula reminded me that I didn't want any pain medication. But when the nurse came and checked me, I was only 5 centimeters dilated. So I'm only halfway through the process. I'm worn down, I'm tired. Give me the epidural, which is not what I wanted either. And I cried. I want to cry right now because this entire process, I can't even tell you how many times I cried. Oh, and the other thing, this happened to me twice. Oh my gosh. 2 different nurses at 2 different points who gave me cervical checks were like, oh my gosh, my fingers are too short. Do you mind if I get another nurse in here to do another cervical check because my fingers are too short? And in my mind, I was like, are you serious? Of course I mind. Like, why the hell, if you have short fingers, you should never be doing a freaking cervical check on someone who is in pain, who, you know what I mean? It was just like so annoying. Why they said their fingers are short is because they couldn't feel the top of the baby's head. The nurse that came in was like, oh, he's all the way up in Canada, because the baby was super high up in my uterus, so they couldn't feel him. Anyway, that was at 10 p.m. So then I asked for the epidural. So let me tell you about the epidural. So it takes a while for the anesthesiologist to come in to do the whole epidural process. They usually ask your partners to leave the room. I asked for my husband to stay. They allowed him to stay, but he had to sit over there in the corner because I guess a lot of spouses, when they see the needle, they pass out. I don't know, whatever. So he wasn't able to hold my hand. I was holding the nurse's hand. For an epidural, you have to stay completely still. I was scared because there are risks with an epidural. If they get it wrong, they can hit a nerve. It can be long-term effects. Like, there's so many things that can go wrong with an epidural, and so many people get it though. I understand that, but I didn't want one. I did not want an epidural, but here I am getting one, and you have to stay still, and I'm having very painful contractions. I do have no idea how I stood still for that entire process. They're like, let me know when you're having a contraction, and so I was holding the nurse's hand and I'm like, I'm having a contraction, and I would squeeze her hand. At one point, like, she let go. I'm like, why do you want me to hold your hand if you can't handle the pressure? Let me hold my husband's hand, because it was kind of frustrating. Anyway, so the anesthesiologist is putting in the epidural and he's asking, where do you feel that? Do you feel that in the center? And I felt it off-centered to my left. He's like, okay, we're gonna have to do this again. So of course it takes longer because it has to do whatever the catheter, I think, is the first part that he was inserting. They have to do that again, so they have to take it out, and I'm having contractions and I have to stay still, and the nurse is not letting me squeeze her hand as hard as I want to. And so anyway, but I'm glad that I said that it was off-centered, because then he inserted again and I felt that it was completely centered. So when they gave me the epidural, it worked fine. I felt it evenly on both sides of my body, so that was great. I was able to rest after I got the epidural that night, and then I think they turned off the Pitocin at some point. So they turned off the Pitocin at 1:30 in the morning, and they kind of had it like on and off throughout the night because they said the baby wasn't tolerating the contractions very well. Every time I would have a contraction, his heart rate or heartbeat would decelerate and it was going down, so they stopped the Pitocin. I didn't know that until the next day. I had no idea that they had stopped the Pitocin. Maybe that's also why I was able to rest well on top of the epidural. If they were gonna stop the Pitocin, then I didn't really need the epidural, but I guess whatever, I don't know. I have to look at my notes so I can remember exactly what happened. So the last cervical check, I was 4, maybe 4.5 centimeters dilated. So at 3 in the morning, they do another cervical check. I am 5 centimeters dilated. And so they say that no real significant cervical change. At 6:30 in the morning, the next day, doctor comes in again. And this is when I get checked again. I'm only still 5 centimeters dilated. And the doctor says, we now need to move into a C-section. And I immediately started crying because it's not what I wanted. The C-section was like my worst case scenario. She's like, I know this is not what you wanted, but your baby's not handling contractions very well. You haven't had any cervical. I don't even know exactly what she said. Everything happened so fast. I just remember asking, okay, so when will it be scheduled? And she says at 7:30, and it's 6:30 when she's talking to me. So it's only like an hour from now. And I was again crying. I tell my husband, get the doula up here, because the doula spent the night at the hospital, but she spent it in the waiting room. And it was 6:30 in the morning. I don't even know if she was awake at that point or not, but I was like, I can't go into the operating room this upset. I need to relax. So they give me time, like I swear it was like 5-10 minutes for my doula to come up. I talked to her, how are we gonna wrap again? Like everything that happens, like, okay, I need to wrap my head around this so that I can stay positive and hope for a good outcome. So I listened to some affirmations for a C-section. Honestly, didn't think that was going to happen to me. I don't know, like in my head, for some reason, as I was preparing for labor, because I had done so much research, because I was preparing mentally and physically for this process, for this day, I never thought that I wouldn't get the birth that I wanted. I know that it wasn't guaranteed, that things might happen, but as things were happening, I stayed positive in the hope that I would still be able to give birth vaginally, which is what I wanted, and not have a C-section. But it's not what happened. So honestly, after the decision was made that I was gonna get a C-section, everything happened so fast. Like I don't even know how to explain it. It's all sort of like a blur. In one moment, my husband is up in a hazmat suit, ready to go with me into the operating room. They got the anesthesiologist in there to sort of kind of go over how was the epidural, and then what am I gonna get for medication during the surgery. So everyone's kind of explaining what's about to happen. Everybody's coming in and out of the room, and I just wanted to relax. Like I was like, I don't even get 30 minutes to think and try to like, it all happened so fast. I only got 5 minutes. I wasn't even able to listen to a meditation or anything. It all happened so freaking fast. So I was in the operating room by 7:30, and getting a C-section is so surreal. When I was getting wheeled into the operating room, because they turned off my epidural and I was starting to feel pain again, they wanted me to lay down, and I was like literally like this, like my elbows were on the bed. I couldn't lay down flat. They transferred me into the operating table, and they're trying to stretch out my legs. They're trying to get me to lay down, and I was literally, my whole body was shaking. I could not control the shakes, and they're like, I need you to relax, honey. They're trying to get me to stretch out my legs. Like I literally can't. You're asking me to do something physically that I can't. My back is killing me. My doctors come in and she's like, what's wrong, honey? And I said, my back is killing me. And they're like, what time did you guys turn off your epidural? Whatever time they said. And they're like, okay, can we get her started on the pain medication? Because she's in pain, obviously. So they got me started on the pain medication. And once they insert the medication, which is the same through the epidural, through the spine, I feel the medication just go through my body. It's like a warm sensation, and slowly start relaxing. I slowly stop shaking, and then kind of everything starts, right? I hear the doctors speaking. I hear them counting equipment. I hear them saying my name, my information, and what I'm getting, what's about to happen, while there's a drape so I don't see anybody. And then my husband comes in, and he's by my side, and he provides a level of comfort, obviously, that no one else can provide for me at that moment. And it happened fast, but it felt like forever. I just remember looking into my husband's eyes, and then he says, that's our son. He heard him cry, and I didn't hear him at first, and he's like, yeah, he's crying. And then I hear my son crying. And then I start crying. Like, it was a sense of relief. This nightmare is over. My son is here. I can hear him crying. He's alive. I'm still alive. I hear the nurses saying, oh my gosh, he's so cute. You're so handsome. Blah, blah, blah. And this whole time I'm still like on the operating table. They're still working on me. And I'm like, when do I get to see my son? Like, when do I get to see him? And that felt like forever. When they were cleaning him up, cutting the cord, wrapping him up, doing whatever, you know, they were doing, it felt like forever. And then my husband brings our son around and I get to see him, and I'm like, I mean, I can't touch him, I can't do anything. I'm just like seeing him and crying because I'm like, oh my gosh, he's so beautiful and he's here. And at this point he's not crying, he's so calm. I'm like, he's perfect. And my husband's like, this is our son. And it was beautiful and painful and sad and just like a lot. I was just feeling like the entire array of emotions basically. And then I started feeling pain. I was like, ow. And then anesthesiologist goes, where do you feel pain? And I said, around my vagina. He looks through the drape. He's like, okay, let me give you more medication. They were literally sewing me up, right? The incision is very low underneath the bikini line or something like that. So it's very low. So what I was feeling was them working on my body. So, I mean, the pain medication was starting to die down or something. I don't know, but he gave me more medication. So anyway, after the whole operating room thing is over, C-section is over, they take us to kind of a recovery area. I get to do skin to skin. They have me there for like a whole hour. I get to breastfeed and just be there with my new family, my husband and my son. And he was born at 7:43 in the morning. And then we were transferred to a postpartum room. I feel like I'm forgetting things. Oh, so afterwards, my doctor comes to me and she said, you did well. She says, I had a short umbilical cord. First of all, the umbilical cord was short and it was wrapped around my baby's neck. So every time he would try to descend, he was being choked basically, and it wasn't allowing him to descend. And that's why his heart rate was dropping every time I had a contraction. So it was a good thing that we did a C-section, basically, is what she is trying to tell me. And in that moment, I'm still mad. Like, I'm angry and sad and everything about how everything went down and how she treated me and how she spoke to me. And then I remember afterwards, I think at my 38-week appointment, which is just 2 weeks before, I remember she said when she did the ultrasound that my baby was super low in my pelvis. So for my baby to be super low in my pelvis to now, throughout this whole process, my baby was super high in my uterus. And so this is why we needed to have a C-section. Kind of explanation was just like, what happened between then and now? Did he get stressed out? You know, did this induction process stress him out, and that's why he got wrapped up in his umbilical cord? I don't know. I have so many unanswered questions when it comes to how everything went down, and I'm never gonna get the answers to those questions. It's just, it is what it is, I guess, at this point. I am currently right now a month postpartum, and I still cry when I look at my incision and think about how everything went down. It makes me so angry. But what else do I want to say in this video? Because anyway, my baby was born super healthy, and the only thing was that he was super small, super tiny. He weighed 5 pounds and 13 ounces, and they were worried that he was too small for his age, because technically he was a full-term baby. He was born at 39 weeks and 3 days, so he's a full-term baby, but he's small for his age is what they kept telling me. So because of that, they had to check his blood sugar levels every 3 hours. The whole hospital stay, like, we gave birth, the C-section was on Wednesday, and then they wanted to discharge me on Saturday, but since I was feeling well, and I said, they asked me, do you want to leave today or tomorrow? I was like, I want to leave today. Like, if I get cleared to leave today, which was Friday, I want to leave, because I don't want to stay in the hospital another day if I don't have to. The hospital stay, you know, after you have a C-section, my whole face was swollen, my whole body was swollen. Like, they don't allow you to stand up for like 18 hours. They don't allow you to stand up, eat, or do anything for like 18 hours. So when I stood up for the first time after, I didn't even recognize my body, how swollen my legs were, how swollen my face was. And I understand that's because of the IV fluids. And then my legs, like, there was just certain parts of my body that were like lumpy because I've been laying down in a bed for how, like 20 or 24 hours, I guess, or something. And I just like, wow, like, I don't recognize myself. I remember I said that to my husband. Granted, Granted, I just had surgery, but it was just, I guess, not expected. How I looked and how I was feeling in my body was just so weird. But anyway, we spent Wednesday, Thursday, Friday in the hospital after the C-section, and I felt like someone was coming into my room every 15 minutes to check my vitals or the baby's vitals, to check my blood pressure, to check my bleeding, to make sure that I'm like, okay, I understand that everyone's doing their job, everyone's doing what they need to do. But after going through something like that, I felt like I just wanted to be left alone for longer stretches of time, I guess, not like somebody knocking at the door every 15 minutes. It just felt like a lot. So by the time Friday rolled around, I was like, I'm ready to get out of here, be home, have some peace and quiet, be with my child, and start my life again. And this first month postpartum, I think maybe I should do a separate video about this because I feel like this video is long already, but I've been going through the roller coaster of emotions when it comes to my postpartum life, and that's all I'm gonna say about that. But that's gonna be it for that. That's my birth story. He is here and he's healthy and he's so beautiful, and I'm so in love with him, and I feel so blessed. And when it comes to recovering from that experience of being in the hospital for a full week, having a C-section, feeling like I'm not being listened to, or like the doctor doesn't care about my feelings or what I want or whatever, like that's gonna take a while to process and sort through the feelings and all that stuff. I don't know, I feel like no one can prepare you for, I know that people said this to me before, but now I really know like nothing can prepare you for labor and delivery. So if you are pregnant, good luck. This is my story. It doesn't mean that it will be your story. Everyone's pregnancy, labor and delivery is completely different. I don't know what my channel is going to look like moving forward postpartum, how often I can create and edit videos with a baby who is breastfeeding and on the boob literally 24/7. But I will do my best. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe to my channel. I'll see you in the next video.